the graduate track of the 2023 McGinnis Venture Competition. You're now going to see 10 graduate teams from across the university. I think almost every college at Carnegie Mellon is represented in this next round. That's one of the beauties of Carnegie Mellon, is the interdisciplinary collaboration that we do have. This year, I think I mentioned earlier, we had 84 applicants to the McGinnis Venture Competition. 84. That's up from our max of record of 50 participants in years past. So people are really, really interested in entrepreneurship. I don't know if it's because they can't get a job at Facebook or Amazon because they're laying people off, or they actually realize that you can take control of your life by being an entrepreneur and control your own destiny. I hope it's the latter. It could be the former. But we're about to find out with these next 10 teams. Formerly called Agni, now called D-Risk. Kind of, maybe. All right. They're going to show how to mitigate contract risks consistently through the use of artificial intelligence. Let's welcome Agni.
Hello. Yep, all right. It works. Right. Thank you, Dave. And welcome to the graduate track of McGinnis. I am Chirag, and we at Agni help identify contract risks and execute faster. First, let's understand the problem. The contract risk identification is a tedious and highly undocumented problem that companies face. It's an intense and slow process, which is very hard to scale. We are going to create some shared repositories and help automate, but before that, let's understand the problem in slightly more detail. Small cohorts are trained to read contracts, and it's very hard for them to transfer that knowledge onto the other people, which means that there are some centers of excellence and some experts who, for example, say the SaaS agreement will only be read and dealt with just particular people inside your company, and they create a bottleneck, and when that expert leaves, the whole system comes to a standstill. So they try to create a solution for it, just create a shared playbook, which is basically for every document type, say NDA or a sponsorship agreement, for every issue inside it. Is it the privacy issue, or maybe the contract, maybe the confidentiality definition is there. You share your preferred position, along with it some fallbacks and some usage guidance. But this has 3 problems attached to it. Due to so much variation, it's very hard to create. I don't even know what I have already accepted for my company till now. Second is that it yields an reading overhead. That is, now while I'm reading the contract, I also need to read another playbook when I need to understand what the fallbacks are and apply that onto a counterparty paper, which might not be in the same format as I want to deal with. And third, there is a lot of maintenance involved in it. The GC might change, the company might become bigger, there might be a new law passed, and all of this leads to a maintenance aspect to it, which the legal teams don't want to deal with. So we solve this in 3 ways. First, the creation aspect of it. The creation is complex, but the signed contracts already have that playbook, already have all the information inside it. So we take that and we infer an acceptable range of language that helps us understand the risk posture for that organization. Second, we help an automated use. So you don't have to even read the contract, read the playbook in the first place. We help generate some automated red lines along with explanatory comments, and this helps highlight all the non-acceptable language that is there for a lawyer, greatly speeding them up. And thirdly, we take the onus of maintenance back from the legal team onto the system. That is, every time there is like all the users are ignoring a particular rule, we take that into consideration and suggest a change, that maybe you should remove this rule from the playbook, and doing this using AI is what actually removes the maintenance overhead. This leads to 3 distinct value propositions. The first is that we take the time and cost efficiency down from 92 minutes to just 9 minutes for every contract. Second, we take them from an undocumented way of identifying risks to a standardized method which can withstand employee turnover. And third, we help scale up legal teams by bringing their contract execution time from 29 days to just 19 and a half by cutting out some couple of back and forths in the negotiation process. And that allows you to scale up with using the same personnel on the legal team. The market opportunity is big. We've only included US companies with greater than 1 billion revenue, and we are still getting to a 2.2 billion market, which is like significant. But more importantly, it's a fast growing market with a 15.4% CAGR. This is also a new and untapped market because, and let's just go into the two categories that our competition falls into. First is the automated redlining and review tools. These are LexCheck, Black Boiler, Term Scout, and together they have barely 1% of the market share at the moment because they don't deal with the creation and maintenance aspects of it, and they don't provide self-serve in their tool, which makes it that for every change in the playbook, they need to go back to the vendor, and the vendor needs to go back to their engineers, and that takes about 4 to 6 weeks. The second is the contract lifecycle management tools who've raised a lot. They're big companies, but they're trying to solve too much. And it's a big endeavor for any company to actually go and buy a CLM. It takes about 4 quarters for them to even get to an ROI. Our tool can get you to an ROI inside the quarter that it's implemented. Our strengths, that's what I want to highlight. First, we are legal tech engineers, and we have an attorney on board who's from Harvard Law, and he's the CEO of a big legal tech company as well. We've built this tool for Fortune 500 companies before. And second, we've conducted a lot of interviews, 112 with GCs, in-house counsels, and sales executives.
Gotta stop.
And that has helped us build
But you're going to be
partnerships.
able to make your points as the judges ask you questions.
Definitely.
Judges? Judges, please use the microphones so that the people online can hear you.
Who is your target audience? I'm over here, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Is it corporate?
So it's the corporate legal departments inside like big enterprises.
Could you very clearly articulate the problem that's being solved?
So the problem is that these the legal review or the risk identification is largely undocumented, and it's extremely hard for them to scale up this expertise from one person to others, and that's where the problem starts becoming an issue.
Right, so if I understand, you're saying that there's a need, something beyond redlining, so that you're looking for sort of organizational intelligence about what's being read? Is that what you're getting at?
Yep. So the biggest issue that they face as a lawyer is not just redlining itself, but it's understanding the risk posture that my company faces. For example, for an indemnification, what are the kinds of different positions that I am ready to accept as a company, and then ensure that within my team of say 20 lawyers or 50 lawyers, how do I ensure that it's consistent throughout? So that's where the value prop starts coming up.
So are you building some sort of language processing?
Yes.
So that you're starting to see patterns and recognizing the risk posture associated with certain...
Exactly. The signed contracts have all of the risk posture in them. It's just never articulated in a particular way that everyone can use. They can't go back to all of the signed contracts every single time. So this ensures that they don't have to.
Can you talk about the state of the product or technology and customer traction to date?
Yep. Thank you so much. We have built partnerships with Flatiron and Predictable, so they are our partners and they've been using it. Predictable is the flat fee wing of BLP Legal, which is the biggest law firm in Costa Rica. And we've also started gaining a lot of traction. That also assumes that we've already built our MVP, which we'd be happy to schedule a demo call for.
So is the value prop to a company, you said I think over $1 billion, is your target market, that they're going to reduce headcount?
It's not directly reducing headcount. That's already happening because of the current market. So for example, 99% of GCs who were surveyed, they said their budget is going to be squeezed and their complexity of work is going to increase. So it's just helping them do more with less.
Can you talk a little more about the barriers to entry? Because I do believe that there is another Pittsburgh-based company that is doing something very similar to what you're doing.
Yeah, so I think the barrier to entry is, I think, largely reduced right now because of the advancements in AI. It understands legal technology very well, so now you don't need a lot of data to really make the technology work. But second, the company that you're talking about is a managed services company. It's not a product-based company, and they've been acquired by a alternate fee arrangement company as well.
How do you train your models, and especially, as contracts develop over time, you have new customers, new versions of contracts, so not all signed contracts are really valid for future contracts.
Exactly.
How
So
do you get this training in there?
Yep. So the process is largely collaborative in nature. They can filter down whatever contracts they feel are the ones which represent their risk posture, and that we do by extracting a lot of metadata. For example, when did the contracts expire? What are the kinds of governing laws? What are the kinds of clauses? Maybe there are particular counterparties that you feel are more representative of your usual standard positions. So we take all of that and help them drill down into what their exact position is, instead of them having to figure that out just by reading through all of the contracts and from the memory.
Is there a way, and you may have answered this, to customize that risk tolerance? So if I'm a new management team that came in and I use you and I don't like the risk profile that everybody was okay with before.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So this is an assistance and suggestions. So you can choose to, so what will start happening initially is that you will start ignoring our suggestions, and that leads to our system picking that up and saying that, you know what, this particular posture is always being rejected. So you can just go and make these kinds of changes. Also, these changes are written down in natural language by the legal team, so they can quickly make those changes onto their system using a self-serve mechanism. It's not something that you have to tell us and we have to make significant changes. It's automatic in that way.
Where's the data and where are the algorithms sort of structurally in the cloud or where?
They are in the cloud, and it's
So a client would upload all their documents to that?
So most of the clients in corporate legal departments have started accepting document management systems, and we directly link with those and help them integrate right into our system from there.
Why would law firms want to be your first target?
And law firms have two complexities. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, I'll quickly wrap it up.
Yep.
So one, they are generally referred to when in-house counsel can't solve it, so it's generally a very non-standard task. And B, they have too many clients, so the complexity is too much for startups to bear with.
All right, thank you very much. Let's give Agni a big hand. As is normal in these competitions, the audience turns over quite a bit, so I see a lot of new faces, so welcome, glad that you're here. We mentioned earlier about some other events that are happening here at the Swartz Center this week. Tomorrow, the Family Business Speaker Series with Emily Sheets from Sheets Convenience Store. On Thursday, we've got a couple of options for you. The Corporate Startup Lab Healthcare Forum will be held in the Simmons Auditorium downstairs from 4 to 8 p.m. It's a conversation about the future of healthcare. Up here in the Swartz Center, we'll be holding a happy hour for Energy Week. So if you're an energy person, you can come here and have a good time with folks that are interested in energy. If you're a healthcare person, you can go down to the Simmons Auditorium and learn about what's happening here. Next in line, we have, I love the name of this company, Auntie.AI. It provides holistic and intentional care for mothers, their partners, and their families. So welcome, Auntie.AI.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Reel. I am a co-founder of Auntie.AI with my colleagues Shilpa J. Stewart and Ellen Lee, and we are here to share about a product we're developing to help families with the postpartum period. So I think when I look at the crowd, not many people are currently thinking postpartum in their personal lives. But I ask for you, as we go through this journey, think about the women in your life who have gone through it recently or will do so. Many of us in the US here think that this is the safest time and place to give birth. But what we're seeing in the data is that women, mothers, are dying at historic rates. Just last Friday, the CDC reported that more women are dying today during childbirth and postpartum period since the 1960s. Talk about progress, am I right? And if we look at on a global scale, we can see at the bottom here, these are countries that are high-income nations that are completely flatlined with maternal mortality rates. If we look at countries that have had a major growth in economics, their maternal mortality rates have decreased dramatically. The US is increasing. So while relatively it is the safest time and place to give birth, it's also very difficult for families today. In our personal interviews, what we have discovered in interviewing mothers and fathers and postpartum professionals, we've come across 3 different themes. 1, mothers feel isolated today. Isolation leads to anxiety and depression. 2, mothers aren't sure what they're experiencing is normal, so they aren't really sure how to ask for help. And then the third thing, families want to help, friends want to help, but they're not always able to help in the way as effectively as they think. So our solution to this is a mobile application and platform called Auntie.AI or Auntie.AI. This is based around 3 key features: a chatbot, journaling, and what we call partner pings. I'll share more. Between these 3 features, we believe we can provide mothers a personalized and proactive care experience. We can give them intentional and fact-based information, and we can help them build their personal support team. There's so many solutions out there today. Mothers, we've heard say, there's just too much. They don't use any of it. So what we're providing is, in the palm of your hand, information and ability to easily navigate with our journaling function. You could do with one hand while you're holding a baby, and our Auntie chatbot, which can answer your questions for you. The really cool thing that we're trying to do, though, is to engage with her personal support team. Her personal support team could be her mother, her husband, her sisters, her friends, and these people can log into the app and use the same information, same tools, but what we're really trying to do is to help synthesize where the mother is in her postpartum journey and then provide that information based on her privacy settings and help nudge her support team to help her in the way that she needs. With that, we hope to grow through a network effect. So we would make a better product as more people engage. We believe in equitable, inclusive products, so we make it mostly free with the ability to shop through a marketplace as well as join us through a premium subscription. All these prices are pretty standard within the market. Our target market, they're having a lot of babies, they're spending a lot of money on technology, they're engaging in social media, and so we aim to be there with them. There are, as I mentioned, a lot of competition in this space, but none of it actually addresses the point of families engaging together. Within our team, I mentioned our co-founders. We're all Tepper MBA students. We're part-time, so we also work full-time jobs. And we have experience in product development, in technical operational support functions, and in working in the hospital setting. We also have an incredible team of advisors. Lynn is here today, as well as project team members that have helped us throughout the course of our project customer discovery and brainstorming of our solution. For our projected revenue model, we're being pretty conservative here. I think we can do better than this. This is a difficult market in that your lifetime of working with an app in the postpartum period is short. It's a few weeks to about a year. So we are looking at ways that we can expand our product offerings so that we can, once we have the hook, can continue to develop with them. Throughout the next few weeks and months, we're doing more customer solution validation as well as building out the platform for our program.
Great. We have to stop right there.
Thank you.
Thank you. There we go. All right. Hand it over to the judges for questions.
Thank you. Sorry, I had another minute.
Can you address a little bit more about the competition? You did show sort of a crowded space, and I was curious how you compare.
So in pregnancy, there's a ton of competition, right? And they are starting to spill over into the postpartum period. But for companies that really focus only on the postpartum, there's a few. They're pretty new. They're startup culture. One main one that I had up there, I can go back, Leia Health. They are not based in the US, but they are starting to try to explore the space. And the other, Poppy Seed Health, is an incredible organization. I admire what they do, but they're different in that they're putting, they're doing chat with actual licensed therapists and doctors and so on. Other than that, I mean, women go online, they're talking to people online, and it's a crapshoot of what you're gonna get out there in terms of answers.
Can you talk about your adoption strategy, how to go to market?
Yes. So we really believe in the power of social media. Our end users are using social media. They're listening to podcasts. So our primary plan is to engage in those spaces. But we have also been talking and thinking through ways to engage with their doctors, their therapists, consultants, lactation consultants. We see our product as a complement to what they offer, not as a replacement.
So you mentioned the hooks after the postpartum period. Could you maybe elaborate on that in a little more detail?
Yeah, thank you, because I'm excited for this. So we see ourselves not necessarily as a postpartum company. We see ourselves more as a social network. We can easily, once we get the right model down and get the hook in, we can easily expand our topics across the spectrum of reproductive health for women. But even beyond that, this model could be applied to other areas like post-op surgery or a terminal illness or divorce. Anytime that you actually need somebody to reach out and help you through a hard time of your life.
Can you talk about other partnerships that you might be able to form? So one of the things I was thinking is that you have a funnel to direct women that will potentially need professional help. So can you charge some of those partners maybe in the telehealth field or something like that? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, actually Poppy Seed Health that I mentioned earlier, I adore what they're doing and I think that it's really great work. And we actually just had a conversation the other day of our team. That's exactly the type of people we might want to partner with. Within our skill set, we have purposely shied away from being a diagnostic or therapeutic offering ourselves. It's not in our skill set and it comes with a lot of risk, but I think there's excellent partnerships that we could build.
And I was just thinking more from a revenue standpoint. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I breezed over it. With our subscription model, we were looking at not developing those features ourselves, but actually partnering with third parties that specialize in it, co-develop so that it's still within the app, but it is a way to monetize. Yeah.
So I think the partnering aspect will be really, really, really critical for you, and have just trying to understand how much thought you've put into that, right? Like on Instagram, there's honoring motherhood, and there's all of these where you could partner with them, as well as birthing centers and midwives and.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely, 100. So in my own personal life, I volunteered with Postpartum Support International. There's amazing organizations out there, nonprofits that do provide these services that we would love to partner with. From a technological perspective, from the very beginning, we're already thinking of a platform. So we want to build those strategic partnerships because it's too much for one company to build and offer out. And it's needed too, right? People want one place to go.
What's the key feature or use case that you want to solve first, like with the first version of the product?
It's the helping mothers with the isolation, helping her build out that social network that she has. So we want to empower them. There's nothing like that out there. And in our customer interviews, it's really this gaping hole. I mean, we talk to husbands and wives and mothers, mother-in-laws. They want to know how to help, and the mothers need the help. But we're just in a society where it doesn't feel normal. I went through it myself, so.
Okay.
I was going to ask you if there's time to elaborate a little bit more on the customer discovery interviews.
Yeah, sure.
Relative to what you heard and then what you think you need to build.
Mm-hmm. So we've been participating in the Project Olympus and the Customer Discovery Kickstart, and we're continuing, we're doing more of that. But we have done intensive interviews with mothers, fathers, and then postpartum specialists. So we've talked to lactation consultants, doulas, OBGYNs, midwives. And we've heavily focused on mothers. It was really hard to get some of the specialists to give us much time, but mothers, once you start talking to them, they open up, they want to talk about it and share their thoughts. So we spent 30 minutes to an hour with each person, even if we asked, like, do you have 15 minutes? No, they want to talk about it. In our next phase of customer discovery, We're switching from the problem statement of validating that it's a problem. Now we're switching to, is this the right solution? Will they pay for it? What would they like to see?
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Great
Thank
job.
you all
Give
for the
her a great big
opportunity.
hand. So the Swartz Center has nearly 24 different programs. The McGinnis Venture Competition is one of them. The Customer Discovery Kickstart program that's run by Project Olympus is another. We also have individual cohort programs. There's the Undergraduate Innovation Scholars. Audrey Simon, who's our timekeeper today, is doing that. We have a Dennis, and I don't know if there's any other innovation scholars in the room, but raise your hand. These are deep dive cohorts of really high potential entrepreneurs that get to see the entire entrepreneurial spectrum and get to know a lot of our alumni entrepreneurs who are out there. These next two presenters are part of that at the graduate level, professional master's level. They are Swartz Fellows, Zaizri Akandi and Zilin Zhang, and they have a company called D.Sole, which is a wearable that helps folks with diabetes detect neuropathy earlier, which can lead, if it's not detected early, can lead to amputation. So without further ado, welcome D.Sole.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. D.Sole is an accessible and affordable wearable that reduces the risk of diabetic amputations by 95% using our early intervention technology. This significantly improves the quality of life of diabetic patients. Let's begin our presentation by looking down at our feet. We use these every day to play our favorite sports, to chase our careers, and gently thread our lives with our loved ones. Now imagine a life without one or both. It would clearly present challenges, like in the case of Kemi here, who suffers from extreme pain and mobility constraints. Sadly, this is the reality for 1 in 4 Americans with diabetes. Every 30 seconds, a person with diabetes loses their lower leg, which means by the end of this presentation, 12 people will have lost their leg to amputation. Of the 37 million diabetic patients in the US, 19 million will suffer from diabetic peripheral neuropathy, a condition in which nerves in the legs lose sensation. 10 million of these patients will undergo amputation. Neuropathy, due to the delay in diagnosis through current flawed processes, results in ulcers and gangrene that causes amputation. It really does not have to be this way. The solution to this problem is D.Sole. With just 3 simple steps of prevent, predict, prescribe, we are improving quality of life of diabetic patients. Our unique value proposition lies in our insole, which allows for early diagnosis and evaluation of neuropathy. D.Sole gives an AI-based complete foot analysis report and foot care information for empowering our patients to manage their loss of sensation and ulcers. Our portable, user-friendly technology allows clinicians to intervene immediately at the right time with the right treatment. We aim to promote self-monitoring of neuropathy in diabetic patients. D.Sole consists of an insole with vibration motors connected to our app via Bluetooth and an AI-based platform which produces a detailed report to the clinician. And based on our surveys and interviews, both doctors and patients love the solution. So, how do you use D.Sole? You simply use our insole. The insole will start vibrating at various voltages. If you feel the sensation, you click on our mobile application. Using our system, various points on the foot are tested. Timely alerts and a complete real-time report is made available to your clinician. At D.Sole, we're makers and doers. Over the past few months, we have worked on multiple iterations of our prototype. This is our prototype, and you're welcome to come try it on after our pitches. We have surveyed over 90 healthcare providers and interviewed patients for understanding the need and the market for D.Sole. We heard from patients that they did not feel any loss of sensation until they could see an ulcer forming. The biggest challenge is neuropathy symptoms get unnoticed by patients. In fact, healthcare providers mentioned to us that more than 50% of patients present at a non-healing ulcer stage when treatments no longer work. Furthermore, 95% of the healthcare providers believe there is an urgent need for an at-home continuous monitoring device like D.Sole. Though others have tried to solve this problem, we are the only cost-effective, about 6 times cheaper, portable, early intervention-based device for both patients and clinicians in the US market. I would like to focus on our serviceable obtainable market here, which is 8 million and is expected to increase. These are diabetic patients who have access to smartphone and providers. This translates to $3.2 billion in the market. Let's talk about our revenue model. We generate revenue from our D.Sole, as well as a subscription model for ongoing clinical reporting. Finally, we also pull in revenue from data aggregation. And with these 3 revenue streams, we expect to be cash positive by 2026. Our business model includes doctors prescribing our device to patients who can source it from durable medical equipment suppliers. These models are enhanced with our strategic partnerships like journal publications, medical conferences, and the partnership we have with Agni Health Network. D.Sole is also going to be reimbursed under current reimbursement models. We are also exploring a direct-to-consumer market where patients can source the device from retailers, e-commerce, and pharmacies. And to justify this pathway, we'll begin our 510(k) regulatory compliance in Q1 of 2024, which aligns well with our plan to launch our product by Q3 of 2024. And our team carries a diverse portfolio in biomedical engineering, robotics, business design, and artificial intelligence. And we have eminent advisors who are experienced in diabetes, neuropathy, regulatory, and business. They're helping us extensively with product and business development. Our patient testimonials echoed that D.Sole will seamlessly integrate into their daily lives and offered comfort and the power to take control of their diabetic foot complications. And to make this a reality, we asked from investors here today for mentorship and funding that we would use for product development, marketing, IP, and data analysis.
All right,
Thank you for hearing us today. Take a moment to appreciate your feet and have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, we'll hand it over to the judges for questions.
Yes.
Can you please review the competition? You had 3 up there. You're vastly cheaper than them.
Yes.
Will you be pursuing a revenue model similar to what theirs are, or are you going to be pioneering that?
That's a great question. So there are 2 kinds of streams which we're looking at, and honestly, we're still researching on what is going to suit us. One of the best possible ways for us to reach the market, and we've spoken to Respironics and products which have gone through durable medical equipment suppliers. What we see that this is a very viable option for us to follow the reimbursement model. But considering the fact that we are going to be FDA approved, we can also be a direct-to-consumer market where we can reach, after building a significant amount of market with our customers, we can reach our customers directly through CVS or Walgreens. So that's something which we're exploring, but currently all products in the market are reimbursed.
So on your product roadmap, it says that Q4 this year is when you're looking to basically pilot. And if you were to go through and win this competition, is that what those funds would be used for, to get to that date?
Absolutely. So we would be using it for our product development. We also have a partnership with Agni Health Network. So that makes us easy. And we started our IRB process there. So it makes us easy to reach to the patients and directly try it on them. Also, we're completely non-invasive, so that's something which is helping us with our IRB process as well. So we'd be using these funds specifically for our product development. We have a provisional patent. We're also looking for applying for a patent with our product.
Can you expand on the AHN relationship?
Absolutely. So Dr. Boyle Cheng is the head of neurosurgery research at AHN, and they are extensively working on the neuropathy research. And this is exactly where our partnership is. I've taken his medical device class, and we have built the prototype in that specific class as well. We presented it there. He absolutely loves the idea. And at the same time, we have Dr. Zagodny as one of the most amazing neuropathy researchers in the world. He has published 5 books just on neuropathy and diabetic peripheral neuropathy, who is on board as an advisor. These 2 people are extensively helping us with reaching out to patients. In fact, we've had a session where patients and doctors could sit together, where we discussed about what form of device should we be. Should we be an insole? Should we be a mat? Should we be a smart mat? So these are various forms of device which we have tested out with our patients, and we figured out that insole is the right way of delivering the specific device. And that's exactly how our partnership with AHN is helping us.
So I apologize if I missed this, but for your initial launch, do you need buy-in from the doctors first to analyze the data from the insole? So they have to kind of sign up and get on board before their patients can ever use your product. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly where our key partnerships help, for getting those doctors on board, which translates to number of patients that we can get. Yeah.
So, assuming that you go with the insole as your main piece, have you thought about, after achieving success, have you thought about other ways or other use cases now that you actually have people wearing the insole for a certain period of time?
That's a great question. And something which Zealand and I have been, so just about a month back, and Dave knows about this, we found research papers on how neuropathy in cancer patients is one of the biggest segment to look at as well. And we got in touch with a professor at University of Michigan who has worked on using a wearable, not exactly an insole, for detecting neuropathy, but they just left it as a research paper. We got in touch with them and we figured out that there are so many other neuropathies that we can tap into after this is successful. There are multiple sclerosis-based neuropathy. There's kidney disease-based neuropathy. It's a much bigger neuropathy market out there to explore. But the one which we're going to focus on at the beginning is diabetes.
How much more work do you need to do to get to the form factor that you want? And then what level of durability does it need to, what are you speccing it for?
That's a great question. During our lean entrepreneurship class, during our customer discovery, and also even before that when we were discussing about the form factor, we had a co-design session with patients specifically. We had a rough and ready prototyping where we gave different forms of the device to the patients to see which one is suitable for them. What we realized is that insole is something which patients find comfortable, also for the fact that it's in your shoe and it's not visible to anyone. You can take the test whenever you like. Mats, even a weighing scale sort of a machine, something else isn't really feasible, or they enjoy using an insole, something which they can keep within themselves, especially not visible part. That is something which they enjoy because there are glucometers, there are so many other diabetic devices which are out there. You can know someone is diabetic, but they love for the fact that this integrates into their life and they can continue taking the test without others bothering them.
I think that's all the time that we have. Great job, guys.
Great. Thank you so much.
Many of our dedicated student entrepreneurs' journey with the Schwartz Center starts before they even come to Carnegie Mellon and they seek us out. This next presenter is one of those. I remember meeting him about a year before he matriculated onto campus. He was a student at University of Connecticut. He also, in his first year here, he's a PhD student, was a Schwartz Fellow that Zeisri and Zilland were. But he's taking advantage of another cohort program that we have called the Innovation Commercialization Fellows, which is for PhDs and postdocs that are taking CMU IP developed in the labs here and translating that into commercial products and companies. So we have Melanie Simcoe, Kit Needham, and Reed McManigal that run that program for us. It's very successful. Give them a great big hand. And without further ado, let me introduce Spencer Matonis, who is pioneering a breakthrough in drug delivery systems to manage inflammation in the gut. Spencer, take it away.
Test here. All right. How's it going, guys? My name is Spencer Matonis, and I'm the founder and CEO of Edulis Therapeutics, where we're working to create the first localized drug delivery system to target inflammation in the gut. So I'd like to introduce you to Gab. She's trained to be a nurse. She loves to run. She loves to bake. And she's also, unfortunately, one of roughly 1.5 million patients in the US with Crohn's disease today, which is an incurable inflammatory bowel disease commonly characterized by blockages in the gut known as strictures. Like many Crohn's disease patients, Gab was diagnosed at a young age and given a multitude of treatments while doctors attempted to alleviate her symptoms. And like many Crohn's disease patients, oral medications did not work. Injections did not work. And balloon dilations did not work. Finally, like 80% of patients, Gab underwent extensive surgery, removing her colon and creating an ostomy. She was only 15 at the time. And I'd like to highlight and emphasize that Gab is not alone in her story. In fact, cases of Crohn's disease have gone up in the US by more than 50% in the last 20 years, resulting in a $10 billion treatment market, led by big name players like AbbVie, Janssen, Pfizer, and Bristol Myers Squibb. So let's take another look at those 4 treatment options I mentioned earlier in Gab's story. And in particular, let's look at the non-invasive pharmacological approaches we currently see today. Outside of poor efficacy, what do these 2 approaches have in common? Well, whether it's cheap oral steroids or expensive biological injections, both drug types take a systemic delivery approach. This means that the drug's active ingredient is diffused throughout the body's entire bloodstream before reaching the symptomatic tissue, thereby limiting its potential efficacy and inviting unintended side effects. Well, I ask, what if that wasn't the case? What if we could concentrate drug where it's needed most in the gut? That's exactly the inspiration behind Edulis' novel localized drug delivery system, which can be inserted during a patient's routine annual endoscopy. This compliant tubular patch degrades and releases affordable, generic, anti-inflammatory medication autonomously in the gut for maintenance-free, year-long treatment. No injections, no infusions, and no surgery. I'd like to highlight that this is a solution which uses FDA-approved bioresorbable polymers and has the opportunity to extend the patent life of existing drugs. And we've seen similar localized delivery systems in both cardiovascular care and ophthalmology with great success. So just to introduce you quickly to our team, I'm a former NASA engineer and 3rd-year PhD candidate in material science and engineering at CMU. Like Dave alluded to, I've been recognized by the university as an Innovation Fellow and Dowd Fellow for my work in translational research. Along with me, I have a clinical co-founder, Dr. Vladimir Lam, who's our Chief Medical Officer with a background in clinical IBD research. Vlad will be joining me permanently in Pittsburgh this summer as an assistant professor at UPMC. Next, we have Dr. Juan Genera, who's the newest addition to the team, and he's an assistant professor of medicine at WashU in St. Louis and an expert in interventional endoscopy, and who will lead the charge in our adoption by clinical stakeholders. Last but not least, my academic advisor, Professor Chris Benger, is an MIT alum from Bob Langer's lab. He's a 3-time SBR award winner and a DARPA project manager, along with his biomedical engineering and material science faculty roles at CMU. To recap some of our progress to date, we've built an excellent team and validated our demand for our technology with over 140 customer discovery interviews through both regional and I-Corps programs. These are with patients, doctors, hospital administration, and regulatory stakeholders. We've designed and printed a 3D printed prototype and begun in vitro testing in lab models. And we've also filed a provisional patent based on the technology with Carnegie Mellon and have joined Pittsburgh-based life sciences commercialization program to outline and de-risk our path to market. I'm also excited to announce just as of last week, we were accepted by Mass Challenge for their Health Tech Accelerator program. Now, speaking of our path to market, having talked with regulatory strategists, we feel our technology would be regulated as a Class 2 combinatory device, seeking both 510K and 505B2 clearances. And we'd be citing relevant predicate in cardiovascular drug-eluting stents, colonic stents, and sustained release ophthalmology implants to help boost our case with the FDA. Now, looking ahead at the next year of milestones, we can see how proof of concept studies in large animal models prepare us for our first conversations with the FDA, building up to pre-IND and IND meetings next year, which are the final milestones to begin clinical trials in patients. In total, we're preparing for a regulatory pathway of 5 to 7 years and $35 to $40 million. Now, while this may sound like an eternity outside of the world of pharma, our technology leverages an expedited path to market as part of an early exit strategy to larger players in the ecosystem, such as Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer, both of whom are actively advancing small molecule formulations for Crohn's disease and could leverage this technology for their proprietary formulations. Now, to go back to that proof of concept phase of our journey.
We have to stop right now. Just ran out of
Five,
time.
I'm at 5.5. Okay.
She's got the
All right.
the official clock. Sorry about that, Spencer.
No worries.
But you did a great job so far.
Okay.
So let's turn it over to the judges for questions.
Yeah.
So, with your delivery system, the current pharma treatments, as they are today, could utilize that?
Correct. So the idea is right now we're doing our studies with generic anti-inflammatories such as budesonide, but if a player would like to acquire us and take on their cutting-edge small molecule like ozanimod by Bristol Myers Squibb, they can take their cutting-edge small molecule and put it in our better delivery system for the best of both worlds in efficacy.
And you're working with Pfizer as an example today?
Not yet. I mean, we need this preliminary data. You know, we need these proof of concept studies in animal models to get there.
Just an FYI, they in particular, along with others, have corporate venture groups that invest in.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we want to engage them early, show them our interact meetings and our first conversation with FDA because, relative to developing a new biologic that's going to cost $30,000 a dose and it's a whole new drug system,
Right.
Our delivery system offers a much quicker path to market. It can boost the efficacy of those really cheap drugs to compete with the ultra expensive Entyvios and Stellars and Skyrizis. Yes?
Does this replace the need with biologics to spend, half a day or a day in the hospital getting an infusion? So it also reduces the cost to the patient and to insurance?
Yeah, we're looking to reduce the cost to patients and providers. So the idea is that we're going to price ourselves basically at the cost of one injection or one infusion of whether it's a generic or a biologic, but we're an outpatient procedure. So patient comes in during their routine endoscopy or colonoscopy as a Crohn's disease patient. The doctor sees a flare-up that could be of interest or concern, and we put our device in prematurely to manage this inflammation, and we'll check in it on that next year's exam and say, okay, hey, we're going to put another patch in, or the disease has been managed effectively. This patient doesn't need to accelerate to surgery. But the idea is that, as we've done with customer discovery, patients don't like to go to the hospital for infusions, or maybe they don't have the option. Or if they're a younger patient and there's only so many options out there for pharmaceuticals, they might not have the option to try out 3 different biologics and find the one that works for them because it's quite expensive and time consuming on the provider end.
And I'm just curious also, would this work for other drugs, other diseases, anything that it would make sense to deliver it directly to the colon, or just for Crohn's?
Right now, Crohn's disease is our target indication, and that $10 billion market is enough to support like a thriving business and I think generate exit interest. However, we're working towards kind of a universal intestinal retentive system, which would, for instance, deliver analgesics, so we can target a much broader indication with abdominal pain and analgesics. So kind of tackling the opioid crisis with a sustained release model in the gut that is out of sight and out of mind for patients, which also can't be abused.
Is this a pediatric device? And if so, how does that impact or influence your path to market?
Yeah, so, and I can just pull up this stakeholder diagram. I have so many appendix slides, I want to pull some up. But this is open to all ages. I mean, unfortunately, like that story mentions, the average patient is being diagnosed with Crohn's disease in their adolescence, and it's a lifelong incurable disease. But for us, it's really more about the stage of the disease and the indication presented. So when an individual stricture is formed, what is that dilation, what is that diameter? And let's get it in early. I think from a payer standpoint, I've noticed that young patients through customer discovery have a harder time being able to switch from drug to drug to drug in the biologic world. There's only 6 options. They're all expensive. And once you try one, it's off the table for future use as an antibody treatment. So as you develop antibodies. So from this standpoint, being able to put this small molecule in, set it, forget it, particularly when it's a healthy younger patient and the insurers may not want to put as much money into, having this intermediate price point between small molecules and expensive surgery or biologics is an attractive case.
So how many predicates are there for this type of implant? I mean, is the idea of implanting directly into the colon something that you could already point to, well, it happens here and it happens there and it happens here? I mean, to me, that seems like a bit of a leap to take with the FDA. I'm curious how that actually looks.
Yeah, so I kind of highlight in these two sides. So parenteral drug delivery, this idea of drug embedded in matrix material, bioresorbable matrix material for sustained release or zero order release is not new. And, you know, we're kind of playing this balance between novelty and predicate. Here I highlight a few different use cases in ulcerative colitis where we've seen medicated enemas, suppositories, rectal foams for immediate and boosted efficacy in delivering these drugs topically. But to your point, no one has tested this topical system in the case of Crohn's disease, mainly because they don't have that mechanism to retain themselves in the gut. And that's kind of where we're bringing the novelty in our system. So much like a cardiovascular drug-eluting stent, we found this mechanism to hold our place in the gut to deliver these drugs topically and locally, boosting the bioavailability of the KPI.
Do you think because you're focused on Crohn's disease, there's a better chance for you to find non-dilutive funding?
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's the next year for us. We're finishing up our NIH SBIR application with NIDDK. We have an active advisor from the Crohn's and Colitis Disease Foundation. So what's awesome in the Crohn's disease case is that there's a huge vocal patient population and supporting clinical endorsement population, essentially, where doctors are eager to find new and better solutions for the technology just because the options out there are so poor. You know, $30,000 per dose for 40% efficacy is just not sustainable. It's a difficult problem to solve, but we have a very unique, exciting solution here.
Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for questions, but thank you, Spencer. Great job. We're now going to take a 10-minute break to allow everybody to stretch their legs, check their messages, but we are on a tight schedule, so we'll start promptly at 3:30. Thank you very much.